I'm okay. Yeah, no, I'm fine. Nah, I'm not fine. Hey there guys, I'm Will, welcome to FP1 and the Comedy Review, the series that is now followed by the legend himself. As per channel rules, that means Stingray is safe and can no longer do anything wrong whatsoever. And if you're disappointed by that, then don't you fret. Benjamin Peterson is still around. That personal news aside, we do have an IndyCar race to cover today. The last one of the season in fact, so without further ado, roll that intro one more time. So it's driver transfer talk, and once again we've got a plethora of moves to cover as IndyCar headed into the finale at Laguna Seca. The big move ahead of the weekend lied with friend of the show, David Malukas, the Dale Coyne racer announcing a switch to McLaren ahead of the off-season, and unlike some other drivers on the grid, actually following through with it. That meant one of the Papaya outfit's 3 current drivers had to go, the unlucky recipient being none other than Felix Rosenqvist, though he's gone with the Bottas approach to team exits, claiming it was totally his decision to be sacked and move further down the grid. Sure mate, you keep on believing that. Rosenqvist's options look pretty lacking, I'm not gonna lie. However, his sudden availability in the driver market made Meyer Shank turn off Simon Pagenaud's life support and snap up the Swede for 2024. It's a decent signing, though I can't help but feel bad for Simon. Though if he fails to get back on the IndyCar grid for next year, his Mid-Ohio antics were at least an audition for the French gymnastics team. Finally, in some non-driver related news for once, the Laguna Seca circuit has changed a bit from last year, with the track being fully resurfaced and in the process being turned into an ice rink. That was more than evident as first practice rolled around, as the field of 27 IndyCar drivers made themselves look a little bit silly. First off the track was Callum Ilott, the Briton doing a very good job to keep it out of the turn 6 tyre wall. Christian Lundgaard meanwhile thought he saw one of his cats in the corkscrew, going on an adventure through the gravel in the process. Both were lucky to keep going. Slightly less lucky was Romain Grosjean, though given how much he and Andretti are getting on at the moment, I wouldn't be shocked if it turned out he'd given them more work on purpose here. The Frenchman was very slightly offline as he lost the rear and went on a one-way trip to the barriers. On a more positive note though, Grosjean's DHL Honda did win one thing this weekend, that being the Hide and Seek award after this practice session. Next to hit trouble was the reformed racist Yuri Vips, whose car revealed it was woke and shut itself down upon reading up on the Estonian's history. With Roman out, there was no real point for Scott McLaughlin to continue as well, so he promptly threw himself into the gravel at turn 1. Scott Dixon then attempted a similar line just before the corkscrew, before Canapino became the next car to go off. You'd think we'd had enough incidents for one day, though Will Power wanted in on the fun as well, taking things a little too far when he modified his rear wing in the process. It was Colton Herter on top though as practice 1 came to an end, and the American was on the pace in second practice as well, which turned out to be just as chaotic as the first. The track had been green for just 7 minutes before a wild Renus VK decided it was time to take up a new career of being an additional chicane around the Laguna Seca circuit. Though he was able to get going again, the same couldn't be said of McLaren youngster Pato O'Ward. Now I think there's a whole running gag of American motorsport drivers can't turn right, but enough said. Graham Rahal was off as well, though maybe creating a smokescreen in front of that livery is just a benefit to everyone, and Will Power was about to make it 2 for 2 when it comes to bringing out red flags. Yet another would be brought out for Santino Ferrucci, whose car went out for a smoke break with just 13 minutes left to run. And with that, the nightmare was finally over, and we could see just how badly the drivers could f*** it up when they were really pushing in qualifying. We had many questions going into this session. Who would have the pace to take the final P1 award of the year? Could one of the drivers leaving their teams after this put on a stellar farewell performance? And when is Ryan Hunter-Reay going to admit defeat and retire? Captain America, entering his end of Infinity War phase, brought out the red with just 1 minute and 30 left to go in Group 1. Kind of a similar situation to what we saw in Nashville a few weeks back, with the cars getting one more timed lap. Not much happened there. Bit of a different situation at Laguna Seca, however. With the track still improving, lap times were tumbling. Even Canapino looked like he might progress at one point, though we were brought back to reality soon enough. Group 2 was just as crazy, with yet another Indy stalwart who should have hung up his helmet years ago, reminding us why he was only doing the 500 next year. The big shock loss from this session was Graham Rahal, though if I don't have to see that livery again, I'm not going to complain much. The Fast 12 saw one of the stars of Group 1, Yuri Vips, put in another solid performance, though he would just find himself knocked out of the final session of the day. Pato O'Ward was also trying to find his way in to the gravel trap, and he finished 12th. That left us with a highly competitive Fast 6, and for a time, it looked as if Christian Lundgaard would make it yet another pole position in 2023. He was denied by the McLaren of Felix Rosenqvist, however, the Swede giving his team the best metaphorical middle finger he could hope for ahead of their final race together on Sunday. Before we get to that, this is obviously the last race of the season, though the channel will jump back to the States when Formula 1 heads there for the US Grand Prix in Austin. With that in mind then, I'd like to give a huge shout out to this episode's sponsor, Headouts, who can send you there potentially for free if you listen closely. If you're not familiar, Headout are a ticketing company that can send you to several of the F1 Grand Prix on the 2023 calendar. They've got the best seats and for the best prices, which I can tell you for a fact, as thanks to them, I got to attend 3 Grand Prix earlier in the year. With the US GP quickly approaching, Headout have allowed me to give you some mega savings if you've not yet bought tickets to the race. The first 10 people to use the code FP1300 can get weekend tickets for just $300, and I'm going to hide 2 more codes in the remainder of this video that will grant one lucky person the tickets completely for free. If you miss out on those, you can still get 30% off your order using the code on screen right now. All the links you need will be down in the description below. Now let's get back to the IndyCar finale. Cars were out of position before we even got to green, and then when we did get to turn 1, it turned out the pre-race drivers briefing seemed to fail to mention what track everyone was meant to be racing on this weekend. It was a particularly disastrous start for the Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan team, with Vips in the gravel and Graham Rahal done for the day, and apparently wanting to pick a fight with anyone he could find. That hideous livery was out though, and that was a win for everyone else, so tough shit, Graham. Now let's get back to the racing. We get going again on lap 7, with a fuming McLaughlin barging his way through the competition, then doing what every IndyCar driver dreams of, and punting Benjamin Pedersen. There was drama up front as well, as Palou took one look at Rosenqvist's farewell McLaren story and told it to go do one. At this point we were 9 laps into the race, which is 9 laps longer than usual before we see Joseph Newgarden have an incident. He would bring out caution number 2 of the day. On the restart, Rosenqvist would get back past Power as Palou soared into the distance in what was really just a visual metaphor for this season. At this point we also got news from the stewards on the start. They decided that they just couldn't be bothered to deal with all the potential penalties, and so were just going to pretend it didn't happen. In other words, the same stance I take with my weight loss. At this point the race settled down for a while, until lap 26 and Helio Castroneves trying to make someone else win in 2023, spinning and attempting to assassinate Alex Palou as he rejoined. No surprise that Pedersen was part of this as well. We get even more drama just a couple of laps later, as Ericsson pile-drived Rosenqvist and stalled at turn 1. It looked initially like the pole man had got away with things, then his tyre gave way, and he was back in the gravel as well. Palou's 2023 luck continued as he made it to pit road just before the yellows came out. That shook up the order for everyone behind. Now Romain Grosjean was on the brink of a podium, and my last video is sure looking in danger, isn't it? I'll be honest, I popped downstairs for a minute at this point, and upon returning assumed we were still under the same caution period, though little did I know that the cars hadn't even made it to the final corner before Pedersen unleashed hell once again. Yes, I know this was technically Power's fault, but it's also my show, so go f*** yourself. Further up the road, Santino Ferrucci won Save of the Year, and I can't even slag the guy off this time. Crikey. By this point, Canapino was 4th, and Stingray Rob was in the top 10 on merit. We'd go racing again, and this time it was Grosjean going off at turn 1. That put Canapino into 3rd, and now I was checking to see if I'd just been drugged, and Stingray following me was just a fever dream. This was real though, which I knew as soon as I saw Colton Herta try out being a terrorist as he attempted to pass Alex Rossi. Attempt is a very good word in this scenario. Up next on the agenda was pain. The caution was out yet again, and this time it was David Malukas. The Dale Coyne driver was subject to the mercy of Devlin. I don't know how to navigate a corner properly, Francesco. I'll be honest, I doubt that name will stick, but this is why he's not on the grid next year, so who cares? The real loser here though was Alex Palou, who was thrown down to 15th and still had to stop one more time. O'Ward now led from Armstrong and Dixon, who was once again using his ninja skills to silently work his way back to the front of the field. Canapino lost out here as well, with his teammate Callum Ilott trying to help limit the damage by just blocking the pit lane. This race really just has it all, doesn't it? Shall we try another restart then? Apparently not, as Ferrucci and Blomqvist had their own separate incidents and the yellows were out once again. I'm not getting any sleep tonight, am I? Caution number 6 would come in, and we would try to go racing. Oh, for f***'s sake. The Chip Ganassi mating session brought out the 7th caution, with the safety car now needing to be refueled because it was being used so much. Anyway, Grosjean would now jump into the lead. Let's just replay that bit from my last video, shall we? We'll see how he does at the final round at Laguna Seca, and actually now I've made this video, watch him go on to win or something. Well, Roman needed to fuel save for a lot of cautions, and luckily for him, Castro Neves hadn't retired yet as he punted off Herta and brought out yellow number 8. In the end, the fuel saving became too much and the Frenchman was forced to box. That put Dixon into the lead, and frankly, I'll be surprised at this point now. Anyway, from there on out, the race kind of settled down, though I can't lie, I kind of needed the breather. After 95 laps, with God knows how many under caution, Scott Dixon crossed the line to take his 3rd win of the year, and with that, it was finally over. In the end though, what a race, a fitting end to the season for sure, and the fact that we now have to put up with Formula 1 for our racing entertainment is a bit depressing, not gonna lie. It really summed up though what an entertaining year it's been on a whole, a year that's shown even dominance can be interesting. Verstappen. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, or the whole series, there's going to be a ton of content over the off season, so if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd really appreciate you helping me get even closer to that big 100,000 mark by the end of the year. Cheers to Head Out for sponsoring this video, and a huge thanks to all my patrons and channel members as well. And if you'd like early access to some of my videos, or if you just want to help support the channel, then you can check that out through the links in this video's description. For now though, that's all from me. Thank you very much for tuning in, liking and subscribing this whole season, and I'll see you all in the next one.